Under the blistering Texas sun, Emily trudged through the bustling corridors of the Austin Animal Shelter, her face glistening with sweat. After 3 years of volunteering, she thought she'd seen it all: the joyous adoptions, the gut-wrenching farewells, and every moment in between. But today something felt different. Maybe it was the oppressive spring heat, or perhaps it was the whispers about a mysterious new arrival that had everyone buzzing. "Emily, you need to see this one!" Sarah, her fellow volunteer, called out urgently from the end of the hallway. The urgency in her voice quickened Emily's pace. As she reached the kennel, she saw what all the fuss was about. A stunning German Shepherd mix sat in the corner, her amber eyes brimming with an emotional depth Emily had never encountered in a dog before. The dog's name was Zuzu, according to the hastily scribbled note on her intake form. But it wasn't her name that caught Emily's attention. It was the peculiar way Zuzu watched everyone who passed by, as if searching for someone or something. Unlike other newly arrived dogs who either cowered in fear or bounded with excitement, Zuzu held a dignified presence, her gaze both gentle and haunting. "She jumped into the Hendersons' backyard yesterday," Sarah explained, flipping through paperwork. "They found her wandering the neighborhood. No chip, no collar, but clearly well cared for. It doesn't add up." Emily knelt before Zuzu's kennel, and to everyone's surprise, the dog approached, pressing her nose against the chain-link fence. There was no tail wagging, no typical signs of excitement, just an intense, almost human-like connection that made Emily's heart skip a beat. "Hey there, beautiful," Emily whispered, extending her hand. Zuzu sniffed it briefly before letting out a soft whimper, carrying years of untold stories. In that moment, Emily made a decision that would change not only her life, but the lives of countless others in ways she couldn't yet imagine. That evening, long after her shift ended, Emily sat at her desk staring at her computer screen. The shelter's social media accounts needed updating, but her mind kept drifting back to Zuzu. Something about the dog's story nagged at her professional instincts. Well-cared-for dogs didn't just appear out of nowhere, especially not ones with such a distinct personality. Taking a deep breath, Emily began typing, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she crafted a post about Zuzu, carefully choosing words to capture what she'd witnessed. She included photos she'd taken earlier: Zuzu's soulful eyes, her dignified pose, the gentle way she interacted with other dogs during their brief courtyard introduction. "Looking for answers," Emily wrote. "This beautiful girl arrived at our shelter yesterday, and we believe someone must be missing her. Share her story. Help us solve this mystery." As she hit post, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that she was setting something much bigger in motion. The response was almost immediate. Within hours, the post had been shared hundreds of times, and comments flooded in. People from all over Austin and beyond tagged friends, shared memories of seeing a similar dog in their neighborhoods, and offered theories about Zuzu's origins. But one comment made Emily's heart race. A woman named Margaret wrote, "I've seen this dog before, always with a little girl. They used to walk past my house every afternoon. The girl would be talking to her like they were best friends. Haven't seen them in a while, though." Emily quickly messaged Margaret for more details. As she waited for a response, she noticed Zuzu's intake form mentioned something she'd overlooked. When they found her, Zuzu had been fixated on another dog's toy in the Hendersons' yard, one belonging to their elderly pet who had recently passed. The pieces were starting to come together, but Emily sensed there was much more to this story than a simple lost pet. As she prepared to leave for the night, she detoured to Zuzu's kennel. The dog was awake, sitting alertly as if waiting for her. "We're going to figure this out," Emily promised softly, her voice determined. "Whatever brought you here, whatever you're looking for, we'll find it together." Zuzu tilted her head slightly, and for a moment, Emily could have sworn she saw a glimmer of understanding in those expressive eyes. The following morning brought an unexpected surge of responses to Emily's social media post. As she scrolled through comments during her morning coffee, a pattern emerged. Multiple people remembered seeing Zuzu in the Oak Haven neighborhood, always with a family, a couple with 2 children, though it was the younger daughter who seemed inseparable from the dog. Emily's phone buzzed with a message from Margaret. "I have more information. The family lived in the blue house on Maple Street. There was another dog, too, an older German Shepherd. They were always together until a few months ago, when I stopped seeing the older dog." At the shelter, Emily found Zuzu in a different state than the previous day. The dog sat by the kennel door, alert and expectant, as if she knew pieces of her story were falling into place. When Emily approached, Zuzu's tail gave a slight wag, the first real sign of enthusiasm she'd shown since arriving. "Let's get you out of here for a bit," Emily said, clipping a leash to Zuzu's collar. As they walked through the shelter's courtyard, Emily noticed how Zuzu paused occasionally, her attention drawn to certain sounds or movements. It was during one of these moments that Sarah approached, waving a piece of paper. "Emily, you need to see this," she called, slightly out of breath. "Remember that family that came in last month looking to surrender their older German Shepherd? I found their paperwork. They lived on Maple Street." Emily's heart raced as she connected the dots. "The blue house," Sarah nodded, her eyes widening. "How did you know?" Before Emily could respond, Zuzu's behavior changed. A young family was touring the shelter, and their little girl's laughter echoed through the courtyard. Zuzu's ears perked up, and for a moment, her demeanor transformed. She took a step toward the sound before stopping, her tail dropping as she realized it wasn't who she thought it was. That afternoon, Emily drove to Maple Street. As she turned the corner, the blue house came into view, but it wasn't as described. A for sale sign stood in the front yard. The windows dark, the once vibrant garden now overgrown. A neighbor watering her plants nearby smiled warmly as Emily approached. "Are you here about the house?" the woman asked, turning down her garden hose. "Actually, I'm here about a dog," Emily replied, showing Zuzu's photo on her phone. "I work at the shelter, and we're trying to piece together her story." The woman's face softened with recognition. "Oh, that's the Winters dog. Such a shame what happened. That dog was little Sophie's whole world, especially after—" She trailed off, looking uncomfortable. "After what?" Emily pressed gently. "After they lost Rex, their older dog. He was like a father figure to their younger dog. Sophie took it particularly hard. She and Zuzu would spend hours in the backyard talking. Sometimes I'd hear Sophie telling Zuzu all her secrets, like the dog was her best friend." As the neighbor spoke, more details emerged. The Winters had fallen on hard times after significant life changes. Losing Rex affected the entire family, but Zuzu's change concerned them most. She started escaping the yard, returning to places she'd visited with Rex. They felt they couldn't give her the attention she needed anymore. "Last I heard, they were planning to move to an apartment that doesn't allow pets," the neighbor explained. Sophie was devastated, but her parents thought it might be better to give Zuzu a fresh start with another family. Emily thanked the woman and walked back to her car, her mind racing. The pieces were fitting together, but something felt incomplete. She pulled out her phone and typed a new social media post, focusing not just on finding Zuzu's family, but on understanding the deeper story that brought her to the shelter. What Emily didn't realize was that her post would soon reach someone who held the key to understanding not just Zuzu's past, but her future as well. The next day brought an unexpected visitor to the shelter. As Emily updated Zuzu's file, Sarah rushed in, eyes wide with excitement. "There's someone here you need to meet," she said, gesturing urgently. In the reception area stood Rachel Martinez, a woman in her early 40s, nervously twisting a tissue, her red-rimmed eyes suggesting recent tears. "I'm Rachel Martinez," she introduced herself, her voice trembling. "I saw your post about Zuzu last night, and I couldn't sleep. I'm not her previous owner, but I think she might be exactly who we've been looking for." Emily led Rachel to the courtyard to talk privately. Rachel's story unfolded. Her family had recently faced profound change when their therapy dog, Luna, retired due to age-related health issues. Luna had been instrumental in helping Rachel's daughter, Isabella, overcome severe anxiety after a traumatic accident. "Isabella hasn't spoken much since Luna retired," Rachel explained, wiping her eyes. "She used to be so vibrant, always telling Luna her stories and secrets. Now she just withdraws. When I saw Zuzu's photos and read about her connection with her previous family's daughter, something clicked." Emily listened intently, her mind racing with possibilities. "Would you like to meet her?" she asked softly. Rachel nodded eagerly, and Emily fetched Zuzu. When they returned, something remarkable happened. Zuzu, reserved with most visitors, immediately approached Rachel with a gentleness Emily had only seen glimpses of before. She reminds me so much of Luna, Rachel whispered, extending her hand. Zuzu placed her head beneath it, accepting the touch with quiet dignity that brought fresh tears to Rachel's eyes. Could we bring Isabella to meet her? Emily explained the adoption process, emphasizing the importance of ensuring the right fit. They arranged for Isabella to visit the next day after school. As Rachel left, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that something extraordinary was unfolding. That evening, Emily received a message through the shelter's social media from Jessica Winters, Sophie's older sister. The long, emotional message explained the family's difficult past few months. "We thought we were doing the right thing," Jessica wrote. "After we lost Rex, Zuzu seemed so lost. She kept escaping, looking for him. Sophie would cry herself to sleep, and Mom and Dad were struggling with the decision to move. When Zuzu jumped into that yard last week, they took it as a sign that maybe she needed a fresh start too. But seeing your posts, reading about how special everyone thinks she is, I'm not sure if we made the right choice." Emily sat back, feeling the weight of these intersecting stories. Tomorrow, Isabella would meet Zuzu, while across town, the Winters grappled with their decision. The shelter had always been a place where stories converged, but this felt different, as if these threads of loss and hope were weaving into something new. The afternoon sun filtered through the shelter's windows as Emily prepared for Isabella's visit. She arrived early to spend extra time with Zuzu, ensuring the dog was calm for the pivotal meeting. As she brushed Zuzu's coat, she noticed the dog seemed more alert, as if sensing the day's importance. "They're here!" Sarah's voice carried from the front desk. Taking a deep breath, Emily led Zuzu to the meeting room, designed for intimate introductions. Through the glass door, she saw Rachel with a small figure, partially hidden behind her. Isabella, barely visible in her oversized purple hoodie, clutched a worn photo of Luna. As they entered, Isabella's eyes darted nervously, never settling, a classic sign of anxiety Emily had seen before. But what happened next caught everyone by surprise. Zuzu, walking calmly beside Emily, stopped. Her ears perked forward, and her tail gave a gentle wag. Without prompting, she lay down, making herself smaller, less threatening, exactly what a trained therapy dog would do. Isabella's grip on her mother's hand loosened slightly, her eyes fixing on Zuzu. The dog returned her gaze with gentle understanding. "Would you like to sit with her?" Emily asked softly. Isabella gave a tiny nod. As she approached, Zuzu remained still, her tail thumping gently. Isabella sat cross-legged a few feet away. What happened next brought tears to Rachel's eyes. Zuzu inched forward so gradually it was almost imperceptible until her head rested lightly against Isabella's knee. The girl's trembling hand reached out to touch Zuzu's ear. "Soft," she whispered so quietly they almost missed it, the first word she'd spoken in weeks. The moment was interrupted by a commotion at the front desk. Emily heard Sarah's raised voice and excused herself to investigate. In the lobby stood the Winters family, a couple with 2 children. The younger girl, about Isabella's age, had tears streaming down her face. "Sophie," Emily breathed, recognizing them from Jessica's photos. "We saw the post about Isabella coming today," Mrs. Winters explained, her voice tight with emotion. "Sophie hasn't slept since we found out Zuzu was here. We needed to see her." Emily's heart raced as she looked between the lobby and the meeting room. Through the glass, she saw Isabella reading softly from a book, Zuzu's head still on her lap, the dog looking more at peace than ever. "Please," Sophie begged, her small voice cracking, "I just want to say goodbye properly." The ethical dilemma weighed heavily on Emily. Here was Zuzu's original family, clearly attached and possibly regretting their decision. Yet in the other room sat a child whose first words in weeks had been spoken to this dog. Both girls had experienced deep emotional trauma and seemed to need Zuzu in their healing process. As Emily stood caught between 2 families and 2 stories of loss and hope, her phone buzzed with an urgent message from the shelter director. It contained information about Zuzu's background that would change everything they thought they knew about this special dog. The message revealed an astonishing connection. Zuzu wasn't just any German Shepherd mix. She was from a specialized breeding program for therapy dogs, and more surprisingly, was Luna's daughter from her last litter before retiring. This explains Zuzu's natural ability to connect with Sophie and Isabella, her inherent understanding of how to approach children with emotional needs. She'd inherited not just Luna's genetics, but her extraordinary empathy. With this knowledge, Emily made a decision. She asked Sarah to bring the Winters to the conference room, separate from where Isabella and Zuzu were bonding. As she waited for them to settle, she heard Sophie's muffled sobs through the wall. "Before we do anything else," Emily began gently, "there's something you need to know about Zuzu's background." She explained Luna, the therapy dog program, and the incredible coincidence that brought them together. Mrs. Winters gasped, reaching for her husband's hand. "Luna, the therapy dog from the children's center?" Mr. Winters asked, his voice thick with emotion. "Sophie used to see her there after everything happened." The pieces fell into place. Sophie had attended therapy sessions at the same center where Luna worked during a difficult period, which explained her deep bond with Rex and later Zuzu. She recognized that same gentle, healing presence. "There's more," Emily continued. "Luna's current family, the Martinez family, they're here right now. Their daughter Isabella is with Zuzu in the other room." Sophie looked up, her tears momentarily forgotten. "Can I meet them?" Emily nodded, but before she could respond, Sarah appeared at the door. "Emily, you need to come see this." In the meeting room, something remarkable had happened. Isabella, still with Zuzu, had taken out her collection of Luna photos and was showing them to the dog, talking more than she had in months. Zuzu's attention was fixed on the images, her tail wagging gently as if recognizing her mother's face. Emily gathered both families, carefully explaining the situation to Rachel and Isabella. As the adults absorbed the coincidence, Isabella did something unexpected. She stood, walked to Sophie, and held out a precious photo of Luna. "She looks like Zuzu," Isabella said softly, her voice stronger. "Do you want to see?" Sophie nodded, wiping her eyes. The two girls sat together on the floor, and Zuzu, with her remarkable intuition, positioned herself between them, offering comfort to both. Rachel watched, tears streaming down her face. "Luna helped Isabella find her voice the first time," she whispered to Emily, "and now her daughter is doing the same thing." Mrs. Winters stepped forward, her eyes glistening. "We thought we were doing the right thing," she admitted, moving to the apartment, starting fresh. But watching this, she gestured to the girls, now quietly sharing stories about Luna and Zuzu. Emily observed, her mind racing with possibilities. In all her years at the shelter, she'd never encountered a situation like this. But as she watched the families drawn together by this extraordinary dog, she saw the outline of a solution that might help everyone heal. The shelter director's message had one more crucial piece of information. The therapy dog program was looking to place dogs in homes where they could serve multiple families, creating community support networks. As Emily watched Sophie and Isabella, she realized they might have stumbled upon exactly the kind of arrangement the program sought. But before she could voice her idea, Zuzu did something that left everyone speechless, opening a possibility none had considered. One that would challenge their understanding of family, healing, and the remarkable bonds between humans and animals. In that pivotal moment, Zuzu rose from her place between the girls and walked to the corner of the room where her favorite toy, a worn blue rope, lay forgotten. With deliberate movements, she picked it up and returned, dropping it precisely between Sophie and Isabella. Then, in a display of intelligence that left everyone in awe, she nudged it first toward Sophie, then Isabella, her tail wagging expectantly. "She wants us to play together," Isabella whispered, her voice carrying wonder. Sophie nodded, a small smile breaking through her tears. Emily watched as the girls hesitantly took opposite ends of the rope, Zuzu's tail wagging more vigorously at their cooperation. It was as if she was showing them, and everyone, that there might be a way to share not just a toy, but something much more meaningful. Rachel stepped forward, her eyes meeting Mrs. Winters. "When Luna first started working with Isabella," she began softly, "the therapist told us that sometimes the greatest healing happens when we extend our circle of support. Maybe this is what Zuzu's been trying to show us all along." Emily seized the moment to share what she'd learned about the Therapy Dog Program's community initiative. "They're looking for situations exactly like this," she explained. "Dogs placed in homes where they can create connections between families, helping multiple children while maintaining stable, loving environments." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Mr. Winters spoke first. "The apartment complex we were planning to move to," he said slowly. "It's only a few blocks from here. We thought we had to choose between keeping Zuzu and moving forward with our plans. But maybe there's another way." Mrs. Martinez finished for him. The two mothers exchanged looks of understanding, years of watching their children struggle creating an instant bond. Sophie and Isabella had stopped playing with the rope and were now sitting close, both gently petting Zuzu, who settled contentedly between them. Isabella, who had barely spoken to anyone but her mother for weeks, was quietly telling Sophie about her favorite Luna memories. Sophie, in turn, shared stories about Rex and how Zuzu helped her after his departure. Emily watched as something remarkable took shape. The shelter director, observing quietly from the doorway, stepped in. "What if we could create a formal arrangement?" she suggested. "The therapy dog program is looking for pilot families to demonstrate how their community model could work." The idea crystallized. Zuzu could live primarily with the Martinez family, who had the space and experience with therapy dogs, but have regular structured visits with Sophie. Planned times when both girls could benefit from her presence and develop their friendship. "It wouldn't be goodbye," Emily explained to Sophie, who listened intently. "It would be like expanding Zuzu's family, and yours too." Mrs. Winters knelt beside her daughter. "Remember how you used to tell me Zuzu had so much love to give?" she asked softly. "Maybe this is her way of showing us how to share that love." Isabella, quiet for a moment, spoke up. "Like Luna did," she said. "She helped lots of kids, but she always came home to us." She turned to Sophie. "Maybe we could all be Zuzu's family." The adults exchanged glances, moved by the child's wisdom. Even the shelter director was wiping away tears. But it was Zuzu's reaction that captured the moment. She moved between both girls, offering gentle kisses to each, then settled down, her body bridging the space between them. As Emily watched, she realized they were witnessing more than a solution to a complex situation. They were seeing the birth of a new kind of healing, one that didn't require choosing between letting go and holding on, but showed how hearts could expand to hold more love than anyone thought possible. Over the next few weeks, Emily worked tirelessly with both families and the therapy dog program to create a framework for their unique arrangement. The shelter's conference room became their meeting place, filled with discussions, planning sessions, and the growing sounds of children's laughter. The transformation in both girls was remarkable. Isabella, who once hid behind her mother, eagerly anticipated planning meetings. Sophie, whose eyes had been clouded with tears, showed sparks of her vibrant self. Zuzu, understanding her role, moved between them with gentle assurance, offering comfort and encouragement. "We need to establish a routine," Rachel explained during one session, drawing from her experience with Luna. "Children thrive on predictability, and so do therapy dogs." She spread out a calendar, markers ready to create a schedule. Mrs. Winters nodded. "Sophie's therapist thinks this could be incredibly beneficial. Having structured visits to look forward to might be better than the uncertainty she was feeling before." She glanced at her daughter, who was showing Isabella pictures of Rex on her tablet, while Zuzu lay between them. The program they developed was thoughtful. Zuzu would live with the Martinez family, where she'd have stability and continue therapy dog training. 3 days a week, she'd spend afternoons with Sophie's family. Weekends would alternate, with special arrangements for holidays and events. But it wasn't just about scheduling. Emily watched as the families merged their lives in unexpected ways. When Mrs. Martinez mentioned Isabella's struggles with math, Sophie's sister Jessica volunteered to tutor her. Mr. Winters, a talented photographer, offered to document their journey, creating a visual story of their bond. The shelter director brought in a specialist from the therapy dog program to navigate this new territory. "What you're creating here could become a model for other families," the specialist explained. "Sometimes the best solutions are the ones we never knew were possible." One touching moment came when Isabella and Sophie created special spaces for Zuzu in each home. In the Martinez house, they set up a corner with photos of both families, including one of Rex that Sophie chose to share. In the Winters apartment, they created a similar sanctuary, ensuring Zuzu felt at home. "It's like having two homes," Sophie said thoughtfully one afternoon as they worked on a scrapbook together, "but not in a sad way anymore." Isabella, carefully arranging photos, looked up. Luna used to help lots of different kids, she said, her voice stronger. Now Zuzu helps us, and we help each other. The adults were often amazed by the girl's wisdom. During one visit, when Sophie felt emotional about missing Zuzu, Isabella showed her breathing techniques learned during therapy with Luna. In return, Sophie taught Isabella special games she played with Zuzu, creating new traditions. Emily documented everything, knowing their experience could help other families. She noticed how Zuzu adjusted her behavior to each girl's needs, with Sophie, playful and energetic, channeling emotions through activity, with Isabella, calm and patient, providing a steady presence to help her find her voice. The shelter staff watched in amazement as their conference room transformed into a space of healing. Sarah, initially skeptical, admitted to Emily, "I've never seen anything quite like it. It's like they're creating their own kind of family." As weeks progressed, something beautiful emerged from a heartbreaking situation. The girls' friendship blossomed, their families grew closer, and Zuzu remained the bridge connecting them. But even as they celebrated, Emily knew they'd face their first real test, a situation that would challenge their newly formed bonds. The first challenge came on a rainy Tuesday in October. Isabella, who had been progressing remarkably, even joining her school's drama club, had an anxiety episode during rehearsal. She froze on stage and Rachel had to pick her up early. Rachel called Emily in distress. It was the winter's day with Zuzu, but Isabella was having one of her worst episodes in months. "She's asking for Zuzu," Rachel explained, her voice tight. Emily found herself mediating again, but before she could reach out, Mrs. Winters called. Sophie had overheard about Isabella's incident and made a surprising decision. "Mom says we can bring Zuzu to Isabella," Sophie announced when they arrived at the Martinez home, her voice small but determined. "Because that's what friends do." She clutched a worn, stuffed animal, Mr. Whiskers, intending to loan it to Isabella. The scene in the Martinez living room touched everyone's hearts. Isabella was curled up in her reading corner, barely responsive, when Zuzu arrived. The dog, displaying her remarkable intuition, went to her, offering the gentle presence both girls relied on. Sophie, instead of leaving, asked to stay. "Maybe we could have our time with Zuzu together today," she suggested, looking between both parents. Rachel and Mrs. Winters, moved by Sophie's gesture, watched as she approached Isabella's corner, holding out Mr. Whiskers. "This is Mr. Whiskers," she explained softly. "He helps me when I'm scared. Maybe he can help you too?" Isabella looked up, tears streaming down her face, but managed a nod, accepting Mr. Whiskers alongside Zuzu, who positioned herself protectively between them. Emily, who had arrived to help, observed as something remarkable unfolded. Sophie, drawing from her own anxiety experiences, began telling Isabella about a time she got scared during a swimming lesson. As she spoke, Isabella's breathing slowed, matching Zuzu's steady presence. "Would you like to hear about the play?" Isabella whispered, her first words since the incident. Sophie nodded eagerly, settling beside her friend. The parents watched in amazement as their daughters comforted each other, with Zuzu facilitating in her special way, nudging Isabella when her anxiety rose, then pressing against Sophie when she noticed her friend's distress, creating a physical bridge of support. What started as a challenging day transformed into a powerful demonstration of their unique support system. The girls spent the afternoon sharing stories, fears, and eventually giggling as they acted out scenes from Isabella's play with Zuzu as their audience. "This is more than we could have ever imagined," Rachel confided to Emily later. "They're not just sharing a dog, they're sharing strength." The incident became a turning point. The rigid schedule flexed, adapting to the girls' emotional needs. The family started weekly dinners, creating a support system beyond their initial agreement. Emily documented this evolution, knowing it could shape future programs. She watched as both girls showed deeper signs of healing. Isabella began journaling stories about lunar rate, and Sophie taught Isabella Zuzu's training commands, passing on knowledge that made her feel valued. The most significant change was how they handled difficult moments. Instead of pulling away during stress, the families drew closer. They discovered that sharing Zuzu wasn't about dividing time, but multiplying support. As Emily updated the shelter's records that evening, she reflected on how far they'd come from that first emotional meeting. The arrangement wasn't just working, It was thriving in ways none had imagined. Yet she knew challenges lay ahead that would test their newfound family in unexpected ways. As autumn turned to winter, news of the Martinez and Winters arrangement spread. The shelter received calls from families interested in similar programs, and the Therapy Dog organization saw an opportunity to expand community-based initiatives. Emily found herself busy fielding inquiries and organizing presentations. But during one presentation, a new challenge emerged. A representative from a prestigious children's therapy center in Houston proposed a pilot program based on their model, wanting Zuzu to join the initial training team in Houston for 3 weeks. The news sent anxiety through both households. 3 weeks seemed an eternity to Sophie and Isabella, who saw Zuzu almost daily. Their initial reaction was a unanimous no. But Isabella, petting Zuzu's ears during a family meeting, said quietly, "Think of all the other kids like us who could be helped," surprising everyone with her insight. Sophie struggled more. "What if she likes the other kids better?" she whispered to her mother. "What if she doesn't want to come back?" Rachel proposed a solution. Turn it into an adventure. They'd document Zuzu's journey, keeping both girls involved. The families prepared, creating a shared digital journal for Houston's daily updates. Sophie chose a decorated bandana for Zuzu, while Isabella recorded bedtime stories. Mr. Winters helped the girls create a photo book of their journey. As the departure approached, they organized a sending-off party at the shelter, which turned into a community event when other families showed up. "Look how many people care about our story," Isabella said to Sophie, watching Zuzu interact with younger children. "We're kind of like pioneers." The day Zuzu left was emotional but filled with determination. The girls had made instruction videos for the Houston team, explaining Zuzu's games and signals. "Remember," Sophie said seriously to the representative, "she likes her ears rubbed when she's helping someone sad." Isabella added, "And she knows when you need a hug before you do." During those 3 weeks, the girls threw themselves into documenting their experience, starting a blog with Jessica's help to share their story with other children. Daily updates became a family event, with both households gathering to read about Zuzu's progress and view photos. The girls wrote letters to the program's kids, offering encouragement. Emily watched in amazement as what could have been a setback became a catalyst for growth, strengthening their bonds. During the second week, something extraordinary happened. Reviewing a photo update, the girls noticed Luna, Isabella's former therapy dog, in the background. Luna's retirement family in Houston, following Zuzu's story, had brought her to visit her daughter. The touching reunion photos brought tears to everyone's eyes. "It's like everything is connected," Isabella whispered, tracing Luna's image. "Like it was all supposed to happen this way." The Houston Center invited both families to visit during Zuzu's final week. Despite logistical challenges, it felt right. The trip became a turning point. At the center, Sophie and Isabella were surrounded by children facing similar challenges. Anxiety, loss, but touched by Zuzu's presence. She helped them like she helped us, Sophie realized, watching Zuzu work with a boy who reminded her of herself months ago. The reunion with Luna was powerful. The older dog, though slower, showed the same therapeutic instincts. Trainers noticed Luna's experienced calm balanced Zuzu's younger energy. "We've never seen anything quite like this," the program director admitted to Emily, who had flown in to document the reunion. "The generational aspect, the way these dogs connect families, it's extraordinary." Sophie and Isabella naturally stepped into mentor roles, sharing their experiences and teaching Zuzu's signals. Their story resonated with families in the program. "You see," Rachel said to Mrs. Winters, watching their daughters help a child approach Zuzu, "they're not just sharing a dog anymore. They're sharing hope." The visit's impact extended far beyond expectations. The Houston Center developed a new program model based on their experience, connecting families and utilizing therapy dogs as community bridges. Back in Austin, Emily established a shelter initiative to identify dogs with therapy potential and connect them with families for shared custody. The Winters and Martinez families became mentors, helping others navigate the challenges and rewards. The girls embraced their new role, starting a support group for kids in shared therapy dog situations. "Remember when we thought sharing Zuzu would be impossible?" Sophie asked Isabella as they worked on their blog. "Now we're helping other kids do the same thing." Isabella nodded, her confidence growing. It's like Zuzu knew all along. She just needed us to figure it out too. Emily realized they were witnessing more than a successful adoption story, a new way of thinking about healing, family, and community. The ripples from sharing Zuzu were spreading, touching lives and creating connections that would grow. But life had one more surprise. 1 year after Zuzu's arrival, Emily stood in the shelter's transformed courtyard, hosting the first Healing Hearts adoption event inspired by Zuzu's story. Families from across Texas came to learn about the shared custody program. Zuzu moved confidently between Sophie and Isabella as they gave tours, explaining how their arrangement changed their lives. The girls, once struggling, had become poised advocates. Their blog reached thousands, inspiring similar initiatives nationwide. "This is where we first met," Sophie explained to a group, gesturing to the meeting room. "We thought we were losing something, but we were finding a whole new kind of family." Isabella, now confident speaking to groups, added, "Zuzu taught us that love grows when you share it. It doesn't get smaller, it gets bigger." The event marked the launch of the shelter's official therapy dog partnership program, developed with the Houston Center. Emily, now the program's director, had created guidelines for other shelters. Rachel and Mrs. Winters watched their daughters with pride. Their families transformed from tentative participants to mentors. The day's biggest surprise came when the shelter director announced that the therapy dog program had received funding to expand, with Zuzu's story as the cornerstone of a national initiative. Luna's retirement home in Houston agreed to partner, creating opportunities for experienced therapy dogs to train the next generation. As if on cue, Luna walked in, moving slower but with dignity. The reunion between mother and daughter, daughter was touching, but watching Luna and Zuzu work together, creating a calm space for anxious children, was even more moving. Sophie and Isabella's eyes filled with tears of joy. The journey had come full circle, creating a legacy to help others for years. Looking around the courtyard, Emily saw the ripple effects of that first decision to share Zuzu. Families who drove hours to attend, shelters sending representatives, and children finding hope in new healing possibilities. "You know what the best part is?" Sophie said to a reporter covering the event. "Every dog here has the potential to change lives, just like Zuzu changed ours." Isabella nodded. "And every family has the capacity to grow bigger than they ever imagined." As the sun set on the successful event, Emily watched Zuzu lying contentedly between Sophie and Isabella, both girls stroking her fur as they chatted with new friends. Zuzu's gentle eyes moved between them, radiating the calm assurance that first captured Emily's attention a year ago. The shelter's walls, once witnesses to sad goodbyes, now echoed with new beginnings. Families exchanged contact information, children planned playdates, and dogs found homes where they'd be loved by many. In that moment, Emily realized Zuzu's true gift wasn't just healing two girls' hearts. It was showing that family isn't limited by conventional boundaries, that love, when shared, multiplies, and that healing happens not in isolation, but in community. As Sophie and Isabella left, walking on either side of Zuzu with their families behind, Emily knew this wasn't just a happy ending. It was a beginning for all the other Zuzus and families who needed to learn that sometimes the best way to heal a heart is to share it.